The views expressed here are solely those of the host and do not represent the positions of any sponsors, affiliates, or institutions. I Don't Subscribe does not serve as a medium for salvation, leadership, or advocacy on behalf of others. An individual's internal compass is their most reliable guide. These conversations serve as waypoints along one's journey. For this reason, I encourage listeners to critically examine all narratives presented, including those on this show. An individual journey is uniquely theirs, and it should be navigated with confidence and intuition. Retain what resonates, release what does not. Let's converse. You are in the middle of a meeting. The plan was solid, the preparation was real. And then something shifted in the room, in the data, in the energy of the three people who have been quiet since the conversation started. And in that moment, every framework you have ever been given does the same thing. It goes silent. Not because you forgot it, because it was never built for this. It was built for the meeting that went the way the agenda said it would. But not this one. This one is moving. This one is live. This one does not care what you prepared for. What happens in the next 7 minutes determines what happens for the next 7 weeks. Most executives have never been prepared for those 7 minutes. I was. Not by a program, not by a curriculum. No, by Central 2 Freetown, Sierra Leone, by the Morrisania section of the South Bronx in New York City, by the 12 years in and out of the correctional system, by the 5+ years as a former preacher, standing behind a pulpit, preaching, teaching Sunday schools and Bible studies, by every room that handed me a crisis and waited to see what I was made of. Those environments built something in me that I spent years trying to name. And I named it. And I built a system around it. What's good with you? Welcome back to another episode of the I Don't Subscribe with yours truly, Ibrahim Dafe. This show has been quiet for more than 6 months. I know some of you guys are a little bit upset with me. But it's not because I ran out of things to say. No. It was because I was in the field between the Rockies, the Pacific Northwest, the big sky of Wyoming and Montana and the Dakota states, building what I'm about to give you today. As we talk about the 7 minutes nobody prepares for, and the system built specifically for them. Now, this is the show where the two aces meet. Adverse childhood experience as well as adverse community environment. Where those two forces collide, this platform exists to challenge the idea that your hardest experiences are things to overcome. They are not. They are the most sophisticated leadership intelligence you will ever carry when you know how to run them. That is the feral framework. That is why we are here. Going forward, I can assure you 2 episodes a week, starting now. But before we even talk about anything else, I want you to know that this episode is powered by House of Lonewolf, where survival intelligence becomes the executive's sharpest competitive edge. When the framework fails, survival intelligence wins. That is houseoflonewolf.com. Now let's get back to work. Here's a number worth sitting with. There's been research on executive performance under pressure consistently confirming one thing: decision quality degrades fastest in the first 7 minutes of an unexpected crisis, not after hours of bad calls, but in the first 7 minutes. Because those first 7 minutes are when the nervous system is making more decisions than the conscious mind realizes. The body reads threat first. Then the pattern library fires, pulling up the responses most familiar to it. Not the most effective, but the most familiar. And for most executives, right, the most familiar response was built for optimal conditions. For the meeting that was on the calendar, for the crisis that resembled the case study they trained on. But the crisis in front of you right now is not a case study. It is a live environment, moving, watching, and waiting. And the executive who walks into those 7 minutes carrying only what worked when conditions were optimal, well, is behind before they can even open up their mouth. Pause. I'm not saying this as a theoretical observation. I am saying this as someone who navigated conditions where 7 minutes was not a meeting milestone. It was the entire margin. On 34 Lightfoot Boston Street, Central 2 Freetown, our house sat at the top of the hill. Below that hill were the slums, known as Dumbe or Crew Bay. You see, I traveled between those two worlds on foot before I was old enough to fully understand what I was moving through. By the time I was 9 years old, my mother had gone to America. My paternal grandparents packed my bags without explaining to me why, and I was deposited at my father's sister's house. Yeah, it was close to everything familiar. Nevertheless, it felt like a foreign country. Every morning after Fajr, that's Arabic for dawn, prayer, I will carry two containers in my hand and I will talk to a metaphysical God in the sky because I know that the neighbor down the block isn't neighborly. But I must say, hey mama, they big, la get small water. That is Creole for, ma'am, please, let me just get a little bit of water. Other times I had to gather wood. Other times I had to follow the trails of a smoke, begging for a couple of hot coals just to build a 3-stone fireside. Oh, since we have no electricity, we have no appliances. So everything must be grinded through a wooden mortar. If I don't do those things, I don't eat because starvation was part of my punishment. In that moment, it's easy to say these were hardships. But today I can say that they were not hardships. Those were the first 7 minutes stretched across an entire childhood. Reading environments I did not choose, making decisions with resources I did not have, adapting in real time to conditions that did not care about my preparation. That is the intelligence I brought into every room I have ever entered. And it is the intelligence the Feral framework was built to codify. So allow me to walk you through the engine, not as a definition, as the thing I actually ran in every room that tested me. The Feral framework is a two-engine survival intelligence system. We have the fear engine and we have the lone engine. But today we are running the fear engine. 4 components, and each one maps directly to what those first 7 minutes actually demand. The first one is F for forged. Here is what that means. You bring everything you are into the room, not just the resume version, not just the polished narrative, the full intelligence, the pattern recognition that got built in conditions where misreading the room had immediate consequences, not a performance review 6 months later. The threat detection that got refined in environments that made it necessary. Every executive in serious role has been in rooms that demanded something their training never prepared them for. Now, most of them manage that experience, they don't run it. So, Forge means you stop managing it and start deploying it. The second component is E, and this is the one that most executives either short circuit or overcorrect. Executive is the translation step. Your nervous system is gathering information in those first 7 minutes faster than your conscious mind can process. You are reading the room. You are sensing something is off. You just cannot say yet exactly what you are reading. The executive step, convert that signal into language, not suppressing it, which will cost you the intelligence, not reacting before you have process, which costs you the room, translating it into observable data points, into specific articulable intelligence the room can work with. What am I sensing specifically? What am I observing that my nervous system is responding to? How do I name this in a way that moves the room forward instead of putting it on the defensive? That is not political skill. That is survival intelligence running at executive grade. The third component is A for adaptive. And this is where most leadership training quietly fails the people it claims to serve. What you walk in with is not the final read. The adaptive step requires something most leadership training never develop directly. You see, the ability to update your position in real time without experiencing the update as failure. The leaders who collapse mid-crisis are rarely the ones who misread it initially. They are the ones who could not update when new information arrive. In the South Bronx, adapting was not a strategic choice. It was the condition of survival. The environment moved. You move with it, or you did not move at all. In the boardroom, the stakes look different, of course. The mechanics are identical, right? And the fourth component is R. And that's what's going to bring it all home for us today. Response, not reaction. Response. The distance between those two words is 12 seconds. Reaction is the nervous system moving before the mind has made a decision. Response is the nervous system informing the mind assessing and then moving with full intention. In those 12 seconds, you have run the forge step, the executive step, and the adaptive step. What you do next is a decision, not a reflex. That distinction between a decision and a reflex is everything in any room, at any level, under any conditions. Now, let me show you exactly how this runs in sequence, because the fear engine is the intelligence. The 7-minute framework is how you deploy it. You heard? The 7-minute executive crisis framework. It is 4 phases, 7 minutes, built for the exact conditions your conventional training was never designed for. Phase 1 is position activation, 2 minutes process. Environmental scan, 3 layers run simultaneously. First, situational reality. What is this room actually showing me? Not what I expected, not what the agenda says. What is real and present right now? Second, stakeholder landscape. Who holds the real influence in this room? Not the formal title, the actual power over how this resolve. Third, resource reality. What is actually available to me right now? Time, information, relationships, credibility. Not what I wish I had, what is deployable. 2 minutes, 3 reads. Then and only then you commit to a move. You heard? Phase 2 will be the framework selection. A 1-minute process based on what the scan revealed. You identify what mode this situation requires. Does it require directive leadership? One clear decision delivered with authority? Does it require coalition? This cannot move without specific people aligned first. Does it require transparency, naming what is happening in the room is the most stabilizing move available? Does it require strategic patience? The most powerful response right now is a deliberate, visible pause. 1 minute will identify the mode. Commit to it. Partial commitment is the most expensive position in any crisis. So phase 3 will be the application protocol. This is a 3 minutes process, of course, where it's about execution, You move from the position the scan reveal. You apply the mode you committed to, and you stay adaptive, reading the room's response as you move, willing to update the approach without losing the objective. This is where the pressure peaks. The room is watching. Every move is being assessed by everyone in that room, whether they show it or not. The application protocol is not about performing under pressure. It is about deploying what the first 4 minutes built. So phase four will become the integration assessment. It is a 1 minute process. This is the step most executives skip entirely. After the crisis moment has passed, you spend 60 seconds converting what just happened into intelligence. What did I read correctly? What did I miss? What did the room reveal that I did not have when I walked in? Not a self critique, a data collection. The executive who extracts intelligence from every crisis encounter walks into the next one with a more calibrated system than anyone else in the room. That is not experience accumulating. No, that is intelligence compounding. You did? If any part of what I just walked through landed for you, here's exactly where to take it next. If you recognize yourself in those 7 minutes, the 7 minute executive crisis framework is the immediate next step. It is complementary, 14 pages, 4 phases, mapped in full detail. Houseoflonewolf.com will be your place to visit, and you can start from there. Now, if you are ready for the complete system, the 5 frameworks, the personal leadership capability audit, the 30-day implementation architecture, that is the Fero Advantage Executive Bundle. 86 pages, 3 documents, $497 at houseoflonewolf.com. The complementary framework tells you what the system is. The bundle puts it in your hands completely. You did? The intelligence required for the 7 minutes nobody prepares for. It's not found in a leadership seminar. It is not in the case study. It is not in the framework built for optimal conditions. It is in the capability built through the conditions that were not optimal, that were not chosen, that demanded something no training program ever asked for. You have been building that capability your entire life. The question is whether you are running it or whether it is running you. That question is the entire Fero framework in one sentence. And that framework is what this show exists to prove. We are back, 2 episodes every week, and this is episode 12. In our next episode, we are going to go into the story behind the principle you just heard today. A specific moment from Freetown, a hill, the slums below it, and a child who learned to position himself before he had a word for what he was doing. That will be episode 13. Subscribe, share this episode with one executive Who is about to walk into a 7-minute moment they have not yet prepared for? Go to houseoflonewolf.com. That is houseoflonewolf.com. Until then, I am Ibrahim Dafe, and I don't subscribe because truth is rare. You dig?